Hey, kids, it's Trent Takes On back again. Surprise, surprise. I didn't think I had this kind of work ethic left in me. I probably don't, to be honest. Anyway, I'm back because today I want to talk a little bit about economics. If you're like me and you are on the hellscape that is social media, you have probably posted an opinion, maybe something about taxing the rich, and you've been bombarded with right-wingers, trolls, and what do you call those things? Bots? Bots, beep, boop, boop. Especially X in particular, but all over the place. There's bots all over social media. Doesn't matter which format you use. So take heart. Some of the times that you get attacked are actually by computers that don't know any better. They're just doing what they're programmed to do. But one of the most common attacks that I get is people calling me a communist, or a socialist. Oh, the socialist! You son of a bitch with your socialist rhetoric bullshit. Anyway, I get called a communist. I get called a socialist. Well, I have to have a moment where I get something off my chest. And that is a lot of these idiot asshole trolls and the bots that they program wouldn't know communism if it came up and bit them in the ass. So I want to take a moment to talk about the isms, the economic isms. What's an ism? What is communism? Communism is when the state, the government, controls all the means of production, and they dole out everything equally, in theory. You know, that's what communism's supposed to be. Everybody does their part and they get their equal share. That's what communism is. It's actually a form of community governance that goes back thousands and thousands of years. The Native Americans have done it. A lot of Aboriginal tribes have done it over the course of humanity. And it works in really small, non-greedy, if what you're sharing isn't something super, how do I phrase this? Something that everyone wants. Vocab day tomorrow. I promise. I'll sit down and read some thesaurus for you. If it's not something that people are really looking to possess all of, if it doesn't trigger the greed in you, communism's fine. There are lots of communes across the United States where people live. They call them intentional communes, where you go and you're a part of the commune and you have jobs that you do and everybody eats the same meals and everybody shares everything equally. It's like there's no actual possession, and that works in really small groups. It doesn't work in a larger construct, especially because it's easily corrupted by those who are chosen to kind of run the system. That's what happened in the Soviet Union. There are still communist nations in the world. Cuba uses a communist system. China uses a communist system, but they're not pure communism. They're actually hybrids. They use a lot of capitalist workings to keep things moving, because communism in and of itself doesn't work on a large scale. For the record, I've never heard anyone proposing communism in the United States as a form of governance. I don't know where this shit came from. It's just a buzzword. It's something that became scary back in the 80s when we were up against it actually became scary back in the 50s when Stalin's version of communism post-World War II. This is history, kids. This is what you're supposed to learn in school. Anyway, we got scared of communism and what it could do to us here in the States. And there was this crazy guy named McCarthy who led a bunch of Senate hearings around the Red Scare, saying that there were a bunch of communists that had infiltrated Hollywood and other influential... Hold on, my phone's ringing. My phone never rings. Hold on, kids. And to quote Eminem, we're back. Anyway, sorry for that. That's a very unprofessional thing that I'm going to totally leave in because I just don't care anymore. I was talking about communism, history, McCarthyism, the Red Scare. All that stuff is all lumped in together, and we kind of still have that fear of communism behind us. Well, let me tell you something. The capitalists in this country would never allow communism to take place anyway. Now let's talk about the next ism that everybody seems to be scared of. Socialism. Oh, you crazy socialist bastards. Okay, socialism is a form, as an economic ideal or model. The government controls the means of production. They tell you what to build, how much to build. They set your prices. That's important. They set the prices for things. And it's not pure communism, but it's also not pure capitalism. It's, again, a lot of countries in the European Union utilize some form of socialist control. I've long been a proponent of partial socialist control over specifically three major industries. And those are education. Education shouldn't be treated as an industry. You shouldn't be able to profiteer off of education. That's just wrong. Criminal justice. The fact that we have so much money tied up in our criminal justice system really opens the door to a lot of corruption. Private prisons and things like that, those should not exist. Full stop. You shouldn't be able to make money off of incarcerating people. So this criminal justice system should not be a cottage industry for people to make a ton of money on, profiteer on. And then finally, the healthcare industry. And this is one that everybody throws a fit about. You can't socialize medicine. We're the only major country in the world that doesn't have socialized medicine. We're the only major country, the only successful country in the world that doesn't guarantee healthcare as a right for its citizens and the people who are within its borders. It's a sad day when a bunch of our athletes go to France for the Olympics, and while they're there, they have all of their testing. They do their dentist work, all of it there because it's all socialized. So that's something that should probably be socialized. But there are partial socialized economies in the EU. All of like Sweden, Finland, Denmark, they all have at least partial socialization of their economies. And it works out pretty well, to be honest. We don't have to do that here. We certainly don't have to. But there are some things that are done socially that people just like, I guess, I don't know. We throw a fit because we're scared of fucking socialism. But at the same time, your police force, your fire force, those are socialized. Those are not private. There's no private police. There shouldn't be any private police. Again, don't privatize criminal justice. Your firemen, you don't want the fire brigade to be capitalist. You don't want them deciding you don't want them showing up to save your life or save your home from burning down. And then they go, well, we have to run your credit real quick to make sure that we can make this happen for you before we save your house. You want them to save your house no matter what. They want you to you want them to save lives no matter what. You don't want them to collect payment up front for that. That's social. That's socialism. It's good. There are other things that are socialized. The United States military, which everyone claims to love, it's universal. You know, these are people who are devoting themselves to the protection of the American way of life. And they deserve that reverence. But that's a social program. That's paid for by the government, controlled by the government, utilizing your tax dollars. They maintain that military. I wish that there were better oversight and a lot more transparency in the way the military is run. But it is run by the president, who is a civilian, non-military. So very important stuff that the founding fathers made sure that they got in there. That when we did bring up a standing military, that it was civilian controlled. Anyway, that's good stuff. Across the board, socialism. People are like, what? Why do you guys want to be socialists? Well, why do you want good roads? Why do you want electrical grids that function properly? All of those things are social programs. A lot of the things that have been invented using government money under government supervision. I'm going to throw it out there. The internet was built, designed, and developed utilizing taxpayer dollars. That's just one of the many, many, many things that we do. How about satellites? Are all those privately owned? Is the system to get them there privately owned? It is now SpaceX. And I guess, who is it that has the other one? There's somebody else that has one. Boeing. Yeah, that's going well. There are some things that probably should be run by the government because, honestly, private citizens and corporations don't either have the means or don't have the incentive to do them correctly. And finally, the final ism is capitalism. That's the one that everybody loves. We all wrap our brains around capital. We love capitalism. Capitalism's so good for us. It's a freedom. It allows you to grow wealth and Hey, kids, at the end of the day, the bottom line is, if you want to be wealthy in this country, chances are you're going to have to inherit it. That's how most wealthy people are wealthy. They're inheritance. It's all about handing down wealth from generation to generation. I guess if you're a professional athlete, you can create generational wealth for your family. But, to quote the great Shaquille O'Neal, I'm rich, but the white guy who signs my checks is wealthy. When you think about wealth in this country, you don't think, small business owners are going to be wealthy. No, they're not. You're not going to be wealthy as a small business owner. Chances are if you do well enough to, survive, that's great. Congratulations. You're crushing it. You're living the American dream. You're not answering to anybody except yourself. That's what capitalism really is. But if you're a ground level worker, you want to work for companies that take care of you. And that happens less and less these days. If you're a consumer, you want, say, realistic pricing. We're going to get to inflation in just a second. But the way pricing is set in a capitalist system by the market itself, by the members of the market, like all of the chicken producers that are producing chicken, they determine the cost of a chicken wing as it gets to your plate. They're the ones determining that cost. It's not the government. That's what capitalism is. And there, in really healthy capitalism, you have a whole bunch of different chicken producers producing a whole bunch of different chicken wings. Actually, they could be, basically the same thing. You just coming from different places. And in order to get the bigger market share, they would have to fight with each other by producing better quality chicken or offering it at a better price to the end consumer. And that's how capitalism is supposed to work. You're supposed to have competition that keeps pricing down and quality up. That's how it used to work, you see. But now we're not doing that anymore. We continue to see these mergers. There are only 4 major chicken producers in the United States. And basically, they've carved up the country into 4 quadrants. And each one controls a different part of the country. So we all pay way more for chicken wings than we should have to begin with. And that's when capitalism starts to fail. You see, the thing about capitalism is it works when it's treated ethically, when workers are treated well, when wages are high, when consumers have the means to purchase those goods, and when there's competition to drive your company to do a better job. See, we're getting away from that. We're doing away with competition. It's mega businesses, huge conglomerates. And those huge conglomerates don't have to behave ethically because there's this thing that we started doing back during the Reagan administration called deregulation. It's the absolute favorite thing of modern day Republicans. Deregulation. We want to make sure that we're not telling businesses how to run their businesses. It means they're going to be able to dump their pollutants wherever the hell they want. I'm manufacturing diapers, for example, and one of the waste products for that is this horrible toxic sludge. Well, in deregulation, you can throw that toxic sludge wherever you want. Forest, stream, ocean, who cares? They don't care. You just keep making your diapers, and you keep producing your sludge, and you just drop that sludge off wherever you want. You think that's like a nonsensical thing. That's true. That really happens. Coal waste, for example. There is a lot of byproducts of mining coal, and that stuff has just been thrown in to the rivers and lakes of West Virginia and Pennsylvania and Ohio. And it's led to some, really negative health outcomes. And we don't talk about those things because, well, I don't know. It's no good to talk. It's no fun to talk about that kind of stuff. Anyway, we don't regulate. In fact, there's only one thing that's ever, one quote unquote regulation that's ever been passed regarding social media platforms, and that is that they are immune from being sued for misinformation. That's it. It's the only thing we've passed in regards to actually regulating the way these social media businesses do their business. Companies do their business. Yes, that way. Do it that way. Just leave it all in. Who cares anymore? Capitalism is a good system when it's done ethically. But the instant that you remove ethics from it, the instant that you open the door for corruption, capitalism can be just as broken as socialism or communism. The difference is, once capitalism is broken and capitalists begin to buy those who run for government office and make the laws that govern the very capitalism that got them there, well, it's impossible to take it back from them. The capitalist takeover of our government is ongoing. There are populist politicians. They are running not supported by big business, but supported by grassroots organizers and donations. People who aren't betrothed to the moneyed interests, who want them to pass laws or not pass laws, and that's a big thing. Some of what you're being paid to do is nothing as a politician. That's what they're shooting for. But populists, true populists, understand that allowing big businesses to run amok, allowing big business to run unchecked, without ethics and without regulation, well, that's how you break the system. And everyday people like you and me pay the price for that. We hurt for that. And when you look at inflation, and that's what I wanted to talk about, really. I really want to get to inflation because everybody's up in arms about fucking inflation. Inflation, you motherfuckers! Inflation right now is the amount of increase in the cost of goods. We measure this over what's called a consumer price index. And what we've discovered is if we watch these certain products that everyday Americans buy a lot of, and sometimes not so much, like cars are in the consumer price index. If we watch the pricing of these things, we can understand what the market is doing. Well, in the aftermath of the horrible pandemic that killed over 1 million Americans and over 5 million people worldwide, numbers higher now, a lot of the supply chains got messed up because they were interrupted for extended periods of time. And it took time to get those back into order. And it takes time to reorder the goods that are coming across long distances, goods that are coming from Asia or Europe. It takes them a great deal longer to get to where they're going. And we had to reorder, basically reorganize how those ships were coming in, running triple shifts for years. We're finally getting to the point where all of those backups are done. Thing of the past. We have basically a constantly flowing stream of goods back and forth across our oceans. And, though it's bad for the environment, it's good for consumers. Actually, the number 5 polluter in the entire world is the shipping industry. That's a fun fact for you greenheads out there. The more stuff you buy that's sourced locally, the better. But even some of the things that we build here in America, a lot of the parts come from other places. So, it is what it is. Such is the world when we talk about a global economy. We got to get green with our energy, y'all. We got to get off the fossil fuels. However, the fossil fuel industry is mega powerful, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that we don't do that. I digress. Inflation happens when the demand for items, for goods or services, exceeds the supply. We drive up the price to try to drive down the demand. Oh my God, this is Eco 101, Economics 101, not ecology or any of the other ecos out there. As supply has increased, demand drops, and the pricing is supposed to drop. However, because companies are making unbelievable profits with their exacerbated pricing models from disruptions in the supply chain and other things, they've decided that they'll just kind of, forget about lowering the prices. Prices very rarely come down except on items that are like commodities. I don't know, crude oil. And sometimes you're supposed to be able to see that change in the price of the good that's being sold should translate to the consumer. But big businesses are continuing to price gouge us. It's called profiteering, and there's no rules against it because we are a capitalist free market system. So when you bitch and moan about inflation, holy crap, my ham and bread are too expensive. That's not the government's fault. The government didn't do that to you, Republican or Democrat or otherwise. The companies that sell the ham to the end store, they did that. The suppliers do that. They are setting the price, not the government. The government doesn't set prices because when they do, that's called a socialist economy. And you guys keep telling me how bad that is. So if you're upset about inflation, point your anger in the right direction. It's the producers that are doing that to you. It's business. It's big business. It's Elon Musk. That guy. I bring him up just because I fucking hate him. That's the only reason. The South African emerald mine magnate. That's how he made his original fortune. And he didn't create Tesla. He bought it. He buys ideas. Granted, he's bought a couple of good ones. So I guess, congratulations to you. He's also a horrible human being. So, details. And yes, I'd say that to his face. I don't need Elon Musk in my life. Inflation is a legitimate issue. And if the government starts passing bills that stop these companies from profiteering, basically regulating them, there it is, it's back again, regulate. Regulate companies and tell them that they cannot price gouge the consumer. And limit the number of mergers and start breaking up these companies that have merged themselves to the point where there's no competition left. It's time for some big antitrust government interference in the free market because the free market will break itself. And that's what we're witnessing right now. All right, I've covered inflation. I've covered regulation, and I've covered all the isms that people seem to be so scared of. For the record, you're not scared of any of the isms. You're scared of corruption. And corruption is happening no matter what ism you happen to live with. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Trent Takes On. Oh my goodness, look at me ramble. Jake's almost going to be happy with the length of this one. I do seriously appreciate everybody who comes with me on this journey, and I ask that you all register yourself to vote and vote in your best interest. I can help you out with a hint. That means vote Democratic, y'all. Because the Democrats at least want to get this shit under control. Until next time, please be good humans. It's the least we can do. Peace, love, Bobby Sherman. I am out. Mic drop.